We are covering off on cruising Croatia today, and our special guest this morning is Kylie from our reservation team. But before I get into that, just a quick recap of who we are. So we're Wild Earth. We're small ship cruising specialists with over 30 years experience. We go all over the world and we have access to over 70 hand-picked operators with access to over 250 vessels, which means we have over 2,000 itineraries to pick from. So we do always encourage you to reach out if there's something that you're looking for, because there's lots to go through, and our experts are able to help find the right match for you or your client. So Croatia, let's get straight into it now. So why small ship cruise Croatia? There are over 700 islands and 350 islets and 70 reefs to traverse through the Croatian archipelago. So you can imagine a big ship trying to navigate through those waters could be a bit clunky, which is why small ship cruising Croatia is so popular. It allows you access to small ports, meaning you have quicker disembarkation, avoid the queues and the crowds, allowing for a more authentic experience, cultural immersion, and passenger interaction as well. I must say that Croatia is one of our most popular itineraries or attractions, destinations here at Wild Earth. And when we ask our travelers why they love Croatia, they keep coming back with the same kind of top 5 answers in no certain order, but Dubrovnik, the old town, which is a World Heritage Site, often pops up on that list. I know I've been there probably about 16 years ago, but I've heard that it doesn't really change too much, as it is a preserved medieval town. So you've got all the beautiful architecture, the ancient walls, and of course that stunning backdrop of the Adriatic Sea. If any of you guys have seen Game of Thrones, you will know exactly what I'm talking about there. Another big attraction is the Palace of Split. Again, another World Heritage Site, and it's one of the most well-preserved Roman examples of Roman architecture that still exists in the world. And it has this kind of uniqueness about it in that it has these ruins, but it also has modern day shops and restaurants and even homes integrated throughout its ancient walls. But it's not only those old world charms that people love about Croatia. There is actually quite a few natural attractions that people enjoy. So there is the Pivas Lakes National Park, which has lots of forests, cascading waterfalls, and this network of interconnected lakes as well. So you can explore them on the wooden walkways and the popular hiking trails. Not all of the itineraries will visit the national park. So if it's something that you are interested in, make sure you do your homework and make sure that you have the opportunity to visit. But probably the biggest natural attraction that we hear about is the Blue Caves, or the Blue Grotto, which is really another worldly experience into a cave which has an electric blue glow, and it is only accessed by boat as well. And as I mentioned, Croatia has a lot of islands, and so many of those islands are part of the attraction, probably none more so than Hvar Island. So it has beautiful views out to the water, it is a popular destination because of its beautiful lavender fields as well. It's got historic buildings, and it does allow for water sports or relaxation on the lovely beaches there. Kylie's actually been and will tell you a little bit more about Hvar Island in her presentation. And the other thing that keeps drawing people back to Croatia is the relaxation and the cultural immersion. So, enjoying those glorious sunshine-filled days, stunning coastline, the islands, the cuisine, and the locals. It really is a lovely summer spot. So on to our expert that we have. So Kylie, she's been with us here at Wild Earth for probably about 5 or more years. Yes, she's booked many a trip to Croatia, and she has actually been there herself. So I will pass it over to Kylie to go through a few points.
Thanks, Nessa. Hi, everyone. As Nessa mentioned, I have travelled to Croatia. It was back in 2017. So it was with one of our operators that we still work with today. And it's actually on one of the ships that we still offer today, which is fabulous. So I can give you some first-hand knowledge of obviously my experience while I was there, and obviously while booking the different itineraries. So as Nessa mentioned, Croatia is becoming increasingly popular year on year, and obviously I think a lot of that is perhaps thanks to Game of Thrones. So yeah, definitely a popular destination for us. The Croatia season tends to run from late May to early October. The most popular time that we seem to find that people want to travel is September. And we're already finding that departure dates for September 2024 are filling very quickly. So if your clients are perhaps planning to travel around then, we would advise that you come through to us as soon as possible, so we can make sure that we can provide them with as many options as possible. So I just wanted to cover off a little bit in regards to the itineraries, because obviously there are a lot of places to visit, a lot of things to see in Croatia. These are just a couple of examples of the itineraries that we do offer. So obviously different operators will offer different itineraries. What we tend to find the most popular for people is Split to Dubrovnik or vice versa. That tends to be work quite well for people. They get to arrive in one location, have a few days there perhaps to check that out more intensively, and then travel down the coastline or up the coastline depending on which direction they're going, and spending again some time in either Dubrovnik or Split at the end of their itinerary. And saying that too, we do have some Split return itineraries available, as well as perhaps the itinerary on the right, which gives you a little bit more of the coastline and perhaps some of the areas that aren't naturally as popular or as visited so much by tourists. So we do have many different options available. Most of our departures will be a Saturday to Saturday, so that's just something to keep in mind. We do have one operator that offers a Sunday departure, and we do have one that has a limited number of Wednesday departures. But when planning your travel or your client's travel, best to sort of keep that in mind, that is a Saturday to Saturday. So it's generally the way the departures work. But we do have plenty of operators and options available for you. So now, just to give you a little bit of example of the types of ships that the majority of the Croatia itineraries we book on. So these are all of a similar style. The maximum or the capacity is generally from 36 to 40 passengers on board, so they're not big. They're locally built ships, they're locally owned ships. They offer really comfortable accommodation, private bathroom facilities, good public spaces on board. Most of them will have a sun deck up the top. Some of those will have a jacuzzi as well. They will have the back deck, which gives people the opportunity to do swim stops along the way, but they have really good public spaces. So generous public spaces considering how many people are on board. So they're all very nice, well-maintained ships. Just to give you a little bit of information in regards to the different standards, we tend to get our most requests are for the higher standard, the deluxe ships, but we do offer some that are considered premium superior, even down to a traditional style of ship. The main difference that you tend to find between the deluxe and your premium ships is they may be a little bit older, so they may have a slightly more traditional feel to them, but definitely still offer your private facilities, comfortable and clean. tends to be that the price of the voyage will reflect the standard of the ship. But it's if your clients are working to a budget, or you're working to a budget for your voyage, we could definitely look at some of the other standards of ships to try and work in and see if we can get as close to their budget as possible to still give them that Croatian experience. So cabins, we do get a lot of questions in regards to cabins. So this gives you a little bit of an example, the pictures there of the different cabins on board. So that one on the left there is a main deck cabin. The one at the top right is actually the cabin that I was in aboard MS Splendid. So that was a lower deck cabin, and the photo at the bottom there is also a lower deck cabin. So we generally tend to find that people would preferences for a main deck cabin. The best thing to note with these is that although they're a main deck cabin, the windows do sit sort of higher up on the wall. So it's not somewhere that you would be able to sort of sit and look out the window. So that's something just to keep in mind. But obviously they do let in more natural light. So if your client is wanting something with a bit more natural light, definitely that would be the best option for them. In some cases, some of the main deck cabins will have an external entry. So that means that the door will walk out to the walkway, external walkway around the ship. And just to keep in mind that obviously other passengers on board will be walking past those windows. So that's just some things to keep in mind. But obviously all again with private facilities. The lower deck cabins are obviously down in the hull of the ship. And just feature just the portholes. They're all accessed by an internal staircase. Can be quite a steep staircase, so that's perhaps something to keep in mind. Generally, they're not the first choice for some clients, but when we travelled in September, the weather was quite warm. So to be honest, going down into the hull of the ship where the cabin was a little bit cooler was actually a little bit of reprieve from the heat. So that is something obviously else to keep in mind. The cabins were very spacious, had good wardrobe space, and also good storage under the beds. So, we do appreciate that a lot of clients who do a Croatia cruise are perhaps making it a longer part of a longer itinerary. So we'll be carrying a lot of luggage with them. So just to keep in mind, there is good storage on board. So in those cabins, so there'll be plenty of room for anything extra that they're carrying. And perhaps one of the best parts is that the crew will drop your bag to your door. So if your clients are traveling with a great deal of luggage, they don't need to be dragging that on board. The crew will do that for them. And some ships, there will be an upper deck as well. There may be one or two cabins located on those. Those tend to be classified as a VIP or upper deck cabin. They will come again at a slightly higher price point. And generally they will have an external entry. So that's just something else to keep in mind. We do have one or two ships of this style that offer balcony cabins. They do book out very quickly. So if your clients do have particular request for a balcony, we would suggest coming to us as early as possible to try and confirm that, because availability can be quite difficult to come across for those balcony ships. Just in terms of, there are some triple cabins available. So if you do have 3 people traveling together, generally they will consist of a double and a single bed in the same cabin. Again, an early request with those would probably be beneficial, just so we can provide you with more options. For single travellers, single supplements will apply, and depending on the operator and the departure date, they can sort of range from roughly 50 to 80% single supplement. We do have one operator I do know that does have some dedicated single cabins available, so they just feature a single bed in the cabin. So obviously the cabins will be considerably smaller, but if you do have any single travellers requests, just let us know and we can look at some options. Children are welcome on board, and price reductions for children are dependent on the child's ages. Again, when I travelled, we had a family on board. I think the child was around 8 years old. And he mixed very well with the rest of us passengers on board, and it is quite a popular option, I think, for children. We tend to find that whenever we import that family, we're heading to the local beach to go for a swim. So it is definitely a popular option for families. So just a little bit in terms of what happens on board. The pricing is based on what we term as half board. So your breakfast and lunch will be included, as well as 1 to 2 dinners on board. Any other meals are at your own cost, but in the nature of the itinerary, you will be in port each evening. So it does give you an opportunity to try one of the local restaurants, which I really enjoyed. It gives you, the opportunity to sit and just people watch and enjoy, one of the local restaurants, and also, provide a little bit back to the local economy, I guess, by booking and eating in one of those local restaurants. Your cruise manager on board can give you some good recommendations in terms of restaurants. So if there's anything in particular you're wanting to try, local fare or anything like that, then they can definitely point you in the right direction. The dinners that are included on board will tend to be a welcome dinner on your first night. That gives you a good opportunity to meet the cruise manager. So there will always be a cruise manager, English-speaking cruise manager on board. And you can obviously meet your fellow travellers. There will also be, again, depending on your operator, there will be a captain's dinner on board. This sometimes will include some live local music, so a good way of experiencing that. But in terms of your cruise manager, they will be traveling with you the whole way. So any questions you've got about any of the local areas, or if there's anything in particular you're wanting to see or visit, then they're the person to speak to. There is a bar on board as well, so drinks aren't included in the price of your voyage, but if you are wanting to buy a bottle of wine, a beer, soft drinks, they are available for purchase. So that's also a good option. So just some things to note, though, that the different, depending on the operator and your standard of ship, there definitely might be some different level of inclusions in terms of sightseeing and options along the way, but we can give you all those details when we give you some quotes and some more options. Other inclusions on board, just to note, is there is tea and coffee available all day. There's water. A lot of the ships will include Wi-Fi and complimentary fresh fruit. So everything you could need, really. Sorry, just going back to that. There is a port and tourist tax payable for all Croatia options. It ranges roughly from 50 to 60 euros per person. That's actually a fee that's to be paid directly on board in cash. So that's just something to keep in mind. Some of our operators will offer an arrival and departure transfer. These will sometimes come with restrictions, so they may only be on the day of embarkation, and they may only be from the airport to the hotel or ship. Some don't offer any transfers at all. But again, if that's a consideration or that's something you would like included, just let us know at the time when you send through your request or your quote, and we can make sure that we do our best to find an operator that will give you those inclusions. But obviously some operators will obviously be able to book additional transfers as well and additional costs. So if there is a particular transfer that isn't included but you'd like it, we can obviously see if they can confirm that for us. Gratuities on board are optional, but they do have a suggested amount of around euros 10 to 12 per crew member per person per week. They are distributed amongst the ship's crew. So if there's somebody in particular you'd like to acknowledge with your gratuities, just note that when you include that amount, that will be distributed amongst the crew. The crew directors also don't share in those gratuities, so it is customary to tip them separately. Obviously, gratuities are optional, so you will get the opportunity to provide whatever you see fit at the time. Fellow passengers on board is often another question that we get quite often. So there's a real mix of nationalities on board in Croatia. There's English, there's European, so you're Italian, Spanish, Americans, and of course Australians and New Zealanders. So great opportunity to meet a lot of new people and share some of your travel experiences. One thing I just thought it would be quite important to note is obviously when all the ships are in a particular port, I've included some photos here just to show you how it all works. Instead of sitting alongside the dock, they sit next to each other from the dock. So what that means is basically if you're located in the ship that's the furthermost out, you actually are walking through all the other ships across I guess a platform that the crew has set up to then get access the dock or the platform. So just something to note for clients, there always tend to be crew on hand if you need a little bit of help or a little bit unsure of maneuvering across the ships. And then you are walking through, the public spaces on the ship, the corridors and things to get out and across to the dock. So just something to note for clients, perhaps if you've got any that are perhaps, have some mobility issues or concerns, just something to note. But generally, like I said, there are crew on board that are there to help if people are coming across. Okay, so the itinerary that we did was a Dubrovnik return itinerary, which actually isn't one that is offered anymore. We do tend to have a split return itinerary, but the most open itinerary, like I mentioned, is the split to a Dubrovnik or return. So I thought I'd just go through some of the locations that we visited along the way and just give you. Obviously, all these photos here are my own personal photos that I took during my voyage. So just to give you a little bit of idea of what it was like. But like Nisa mentioned, Dubrovnik has become increasingly popular due to Game of Thrones. The historical centre, the old town centre, is definitely worth a visit. It's got the old city walls, which you can actually walk along, which is fantastic. There's also a cable car, which is great. We went up that while we were there, and it gives you a fantastic view over Dubrovnik. So really, really easy walk around. The old town centre is located a little bit of a distance from the port. We just caught the local bus. If you were there as part of an itinerary, perhaps a split return or another itinerary, perhaps a split to Dubrovnik itinerary, you will find sometimes that your transfers through the old town centre will be included. We obviously arrived in Dubrovnik, so we had a little bit of time beforehand, and then we left out of Dubrovnik, so we had a little bit of time at the end of our voyage as well. We just caught the local bus into the old town centre, which was very easy. The next place we visited was Korčula. Is said to be the birthplace of Marco Polo, but it has just due to the shape of it being that sort of almost looks like an island, but it's just connected to the mainland. Very easy to walk around. It's what we tend to find in all of the locations in Croatia. If you enjoy having a wander around and walking, then definitely the destination for you, because it's just a very easy walk around. You tend to find you've got quite a bit of time in each location, and it's just lovely just to have a wander around, look at the local architecture, look out to the views. Yeah, definitely a great location for that. There are definitely a lot of restaurant options there, like the photo on the left there. Some have fantastic view out to the sea, so a really sort of idyllic location, which is probably, you use the word you'd use, idyllic, is probably for many of the locations in Croatia, is really lovely. Again, Hvar, like Nessa mentioned, is a great location. They have, for the more adventurous, which we did have a few on our voyage, there is the hilltop fortress, which you can walk up to. We were in perhaps not such an adventurous mood while we were there, so we just tended to sit at one of the local restaurants there and watch the world go by, as well as having, after our little city or our little local tour, guided tour. So a lot of the operators will, you'll arrive in a location, you'll have your little local tour. Often a lot of them will include a wireless headset. So even if you are standing a little way back from the local guide, you'll still be able to hear the commentary, which is really handy. So, and if there are a lot of other people around, then it just makes you be able to hear that commentary a little bit easier. So not all our operators will perhaps offer that, but it is quite handy if, you're very much interested in the local history and knowing more about where you're visiting. So the next location is Brac. It's home to the Golden Horn Beach, which is an image that you will see quite often in photos and things for Croatia. The walk around to the beach is a really lovely walkway, which is that photo at the top right there. So again, a nice leisurely stroll across the beach. We had enough time there that some of our fellow passengers were actually going for a swim, taking the time to go for a swim. So definitely there's enough time in each location to allow you to see enough, have a good wander around, and also perhaps enjoy a swim. The next location was Omis, which was quite a different location to some of the others that we had visited. It's located at the mouth of the Centina River. There has these impressive hills rising from the back of the settlement. Again, it's another easy, small location, easy to walk around. And again, for those a little bit more adventurous, you can walk up to the Fortress Mirabella, which is a 13th century fortress situated behind the old town. There is a set of stairs there. There is an entrance fee required. But it apparently does give you a fantastic view of the location. So another lovely area, and it's quite popular in terms for caving and things like that. And this was one of my favorite areas was the Miljet National Park. So a lot of the operators will include the Miljet National Park, but obviously for some it will be an additional cost. Off the top of my head from memory, I think it's around €15 per person roughly for entrance, so not expensive. It's just something you'll need to pay directly once on board. Definitely worth it. It's easily accessible, but there's also bike hire if perhaps you're wanting to go a little bit further than a walk would allow. But definitely, your cruise manager on board will be able to, again, help you with arranging that type of thing on board. And within the park, there is a lake, which has a small island of Melita, which is home to the old Benedictine monastery built in the 12th century. So, and it's actually now a cafe restaurant. So it's a really lovely, there's like a little small scheduled boat that takes you across the island to visit and have a wander around. And there's a lovely group of local donkey population that lives on the island. So they were definitely popular with a lot of the visitors there. But that was really lovely. We took the boat across the island, had a good wander around, and then managed to have time just to sit and enjoy the location a little bit more, have a drink, and then we caught the little scheduled boat back, and then walked out of the park back to the ship. So it was really nice, a little bit of a leisurely day, that one, and a little bit more time spent in the national park, so which was really nice. So the last location is Split. So this was the middle of our itinerary. As Nessa mentioned, they've got the Old Town Centre with the palace. Again, with both Split and Dubrovnik, these Old Town Centres, there's no vehicle access. So, you know, if your clients are staying in those areas, just in terms of getting transfers in and out and things, often they'll need to make their way sort of out of those Old Town Centres to a location for transfer pickup and things like that. Just so something to keep in mind. But again, it's an easy walk around. They have a fantastic waterfront area in Split, which is really lovely. They have a lot of gardens and a lot of seating areas and things. So again, you can sit and watch, you know, the ships and the ferries coming in and out of Split, which is really nice. There are lots of restaurants and bars located within, you know, the Old Town Centre. So again, you're spoilt for choice in terms of your dinner that evening off the ship. So there's plenty of options there. The ships are actually located quite well in easy walking distance round from Split. So all flat walk around the waterfront. So again, easy to walk in and out of this area. So yeah, so that was the middle of our itinerary, but one of the last areas I'm going to cover off today. I just wanted to let you know just some little general facts about obviously your voyage and what you can expect. There is some opportunities. I think during our voyage we just had one opportunity, but they do, depending on the weather and things, there will be opportunities to swim off the back of the ship. The captain will, depending on obviously his timing, and will find a nice sheltered spot and provide you the opportunity to swim off the back of the ship. So obviously you do need to wait for him to obviously find that special location. It's not something you can do all the time, but there are opportunities that will hopefully arise that will allow you to do that. In terms of travel, most travel between the different ports is done during the day. I think the earliest time that we ever left port one morning was 6 a.m. So in terms of, I know we do get some concerns from people in terms of engine noise in your cabins and things like that. Yes, we did notice some engine noise that morning, but like I said, you are in port at night. So generally while you're sleeping, you are in port, so you don't tend to find that you have any engine noise. You do travel during the day, and obviously just depending on your itinerary and how far you're going that particular day, your journey might be only a couple of hours, or it might be a little bit more significant. But obviously the captain will try his best to try and get you, you know, into the next location as early possible, so you can enjoy as much time, you know, in that port as possible. But obviously weather conditions and things will dictate that. So just that's basically to cover off some of the different locations and itineraries and things like that. Yeah, if your clients have got any particular requests in terms of areas they would like to see in Croatia, we'll do our very best to try and match their requests with, you know, an applicable itinerary that one of our operators offers. But I hope that kind of gives you a little bit of an idea of what, you know, cruising Croatia coastline is like. It is a fantastic destination, full of history, and to some fabulous architecture, and like I said, those idyllic little ports and locations. So yeah, definitely one for the bucket list, definitely. So I also just wanted to mention that we do obviously have some other options in Croatia on some of our bigger vessels. So the likes, we have a Sea Cloud, which is like a traditional tall sailing ship. A lot of these larger ships will have itineraries that touch on the Croatian coastline, so they may start in Italy, end in Greece, but will include some of their Croatian coastline. So if you've got some clients that are perhaps looking for a slightly bigger ship with some more conclusions and some more destinations, we do definitely have some, but that will include Croatia. Obviously, the Pinot ships are another one that we offer, and they do have a couple of Croatian itineraries, and Nessa's just going to cover off those with you now, so I'll pass you over.
Yes, thank you, Kylie. Really in depth. As Kylie mentioned, we do have access to some bigger ships, and we do have an exclusive offer for you guys today with one of, two of those ships actually. So the first itinerary is the Best of Croatia, and it has a bit of a luxurious slant on it, given the vessel, which we'll go through in a little bit of a minute. But in terms of the itinerary, 8 days. It is starting in Venice, but it is Venice return, and you get the chance to dock and see 6 Croatian cities notable for their cultural, historical and heritage and their charm. And you do get to visit those World UNESCO sites as well. So obviously Venice, but Dubrovnik, as we mentioned, and Split, and then all the way down to Montenegro, to Kotor as well. And you so that there's only one sailing for next year, and the exclusive offer that we do have is $800 off the website price. So we've got 2 weeks to sell that, so you have to get in before the 1st of September, the 7th of September, to get that discount. And that is aboard the ship L'Austral, which is a little bit bigger, but you kind of get a bit more of luxury kind of feel about it.
Yeah, so L'Austral has some maximum capacity of around 260 passengers on board. So it is quite a different vessel to some of the ones that we have had a look at today. I guess the important thing to note with some of these itineraries is that with the size of the ships won't be docked, right in port. So all trips or transfers to the port and to these little locations will be done via tender. So that's just something to note. But definitely, if clients are wanting, perhaps visiting Venice, and it is a good little add-on to be able to include Croatia. Mm-hmm. So with both of these options that Nisa's going through, they are a little bit more inclusive. So I'll let her cover off this next one for you.
Yeah, so the next one is Croatia Plus. So you get to see the attractions of Croatia, but also Italy, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Montenegro, Albania, and Greece as well. It is again over 8 days, and this one's tailored at travelers who want a little bit more of an expedition feel. So you get all your expedition inclusions in the price, which is a little bit more than the previous one, but you still get that $800 savings on the website price if you book within the next 2 weeks. And it is sponsored or in conjunction with the Smithsonian Institution, so you get all these this historical slant on it as well. They'll be able to accompany you to your expeditions and give you a little bit more information as you do those expeditions. But again, this is on a larger ship, Le Bougainville, which is similar to L'Austral.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's one of the explorer ships, so Ponant explorer ships. So the maximum capacity is around 180 passengers on board. I think the important thing to note with both of these itineraries is on board the ship, all your meals will be included. They do include all the drinks, excluding the premium brands, obviously. So it is quite a different option to some of the ships we were looking at today. And obviously, as Nisa has mentioned, the Croatia Plus itinerary is a Smithsonian journey. So, you've got an excursion included in each port of call. The other earlier itinerary excursions will be additional. But they can be pre-booked around 60 days prior, or you can obviously book them on board, and they are all payable on board. So that's just something to consider. But definitely, if your clients are looking for, slightly bigger ship experience, as well as including some different locations, then they are definitely some great options.
Yeah, and I forgot to mention that with the Croatia Plus itinerary, you do get transfers from the airport and back to the airport included in that price as well. So if you are looking to book or have any questions, please contact your agent first and foremost, or reach out to us as well at Wild Earth Travel. We're here to help. And thank you for tuning in. We will do a follow-up email. We'll give you the recording link and also some details of all those trips that we've just mentioned as well. And on to the British Isles for our next webinar in just over 3 weeks' time. Here at Wild Death Travel, we will be hosting an escorted trip next year where we'll do Edinburgh in Scotland, and we'll go up to the British Isles and then to the Faroe Islands as well, which is quite exciting. Ellen will be hosting that trip, and she will be hosting the webinar next week, and she'll go through all those destinations. So I will put the links into the follow-up email. And until then, thanks again, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
you.
Bye.